What does my channel name IDICBeer stand for? I'm going to answer this and more in this month's Q&A. Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, time for a subscriber Q&A. I'm going to answer all of the questions that I received on last month's video. Before that though, I've got a question to ask you. And the question is about terrain. So when you're making terrain, what is your preferred material to use? I'd be very interested to know that. Personally, I like to use foam board. I think it's great for making my Necron pieces of terrain. But of course, mine are more structural based. So I'd love to know what your go-to material is. So let me know in the comments box below. And whilst you're there, why not leave me a question for next month's Q&A? And if you want to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, please subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so I've got some great questions to answer in this video. I know this because I've already recorded this video yesterday. However, the battery on my microphone ran out and I had no sound, so I'm re-recording it. Now because of that, I haven't got quite as much time to edit the video, so I'm going to try to do it without too many edits. So if I make any mistakes reading the questions or anything, I'm just going to keep them in there. So let's get on with it, and the first question, which is from Navani666, and he says, I also began playing Necrons way back with 3rd edition Codex, when Phase Out existed. Did you experience it, and did you also, as I'm sure many Necron players did, throw a personal party when Games Workshop removed it from the game? Well, I didn't do a party, but it was very nice to see Phase Outs disappear. If you're not sure what that is, then basically in the old days, I'm used to editing. Normally I'd just start again, but I've got to remember I'm not editing this, so just carry on, Nick. So yeah, if you didn't know what Phase Out was, then when you lose... this is harder than you think. Okay, so when you did... Oh, do that. Okay, compose yourself, Nick. In the old days, when you lost 75% of your army, the 25% that was left just phased out. It disappeared from the table, end of game. You're basically tabled. Now, in some respect, I actually quite liked this rule because it meant that your Necron army never died. It only ever phased out. And I used to jibe with my buddies on that, in that you can never kill a Necron, it just phases out. But of course, when phase out disappeared, that's not quite the case. So I think it was a fun rule, but it wasn't the best rule in the world. So yeah, but no personal parties, but I think it was good to see. Okay, so the next question is from Loveminis, and he says, have you or would you turn down playing a 40k game against a woman? I certainly haven't turned any down. To be fair, I haven't played many games. I've played 2 games against my 2 different ex-wives, 1 game each, and to be fair, they didn't really like it, so we never played anymore. But I certainly don't mind playing a woman, a girl. Why not? I think it'd be just the same as playing a man. So next question is from David Martin, and he says, if you could design a new unit for Necrons, what would you choose and what abilities would it have? So David, I'm going to stick with my usual answer here. It's not necessarily a new unit, but I think it's a unit that Necrons need, and we need a proper Star Guard. A nice big Magnus-sized model with, why not, Magnus type rules. Something which sort of hits on 2s and re-rolls the 1s, really high strength, good toughness, a good save, lots of wounds, just something that we can just charge up the table as a Necron player. I think that would be really good fun, and I think, to be fair, Necrons need something like that. So I would say a Star Guard, not a Shard, a real Star Guard. Thanks for the question, David. So the next question is from Braden W Hickman, and he says, will you do Harlequins as their own faction or as a support to your Eldar or Dark Eldar. Maybe your colour schemes merge with oranges, purples and browns and whites. So yeah, if you don't know, I do actually have a Harlequin army. It's not painted and it's got some very old models in it. I did the army on the back of some of the Fritz videos that I saw. He did a Harlequins army. I loved playing that army. I don't think I actually ever lost a game with that army. However, I sort of stopped featuring it on the channel because it wasn't painted, but it was a lot of fun. I don't know that I would do a Harlequins army. Now they have their own dedicated codex. That sounds like too much work. I don't really need another army, another codex. Potentially could play Harlequins in the Eldar codex like I used to, but it's one for the far distant future. But yeah, I don't know. If I played, would I paint them? I don't know. I think I would probably paint them in the IDIC Eldar colours with some of the purples more than the Dark Eldar. My Dark Eldar army is finished. I've got just over 2,000 points, painted the whole army in 31 days, and I'm very proud of that, and I'm not going to add to it. That was just a project all on its own. But yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So, next question is from Capitan Morgan's Wargames. This is from Richard, who you've seen in my battle reports recently. He says, what 3 things would you say make you a strong player, especially holding your own in competitions, winning 3 games at a competition? What 3 things hold you back from winning 4 or 5 games in a competition or as a player? Okay, so the things that are holding me back from winning more than 3 games, bearing in mind I've only been to 2 tournaments, but the things that are holding me back are, I would say, 1, the models that I own. I don't necessarily own the most competitive current meta units, so that's 1. 2, I don't play against enough meta heavy armies to really be used to playing them often and knowing the ins and outs of all of their rules. And then I would say 3, I just don't go to enough tournaments. You know, I think you've got to be going all the time to be current and up to date with what's happening and build your lists around the meta that you see at the events. Now, in terms of what makes me a strong player, if you want to say I'm a strong player, I think is my experience really, and I think I'm picking 3 things. It's going to be quite hard, but I would say my experience of playing the game, I played pretty much once a week since 2001, so that's quite a number of games. Now, yes, the rules of course have moved on, you know, we've got new editions and new codices, etc. So yeah, I think I would say I'm drinking everything now, coffee, water, why not? Actually, I just had a curry before doing this, so my throat is quite spicy, let's say. Anyway, so I've got 1, my experience. 2 would be probably knowing my armies quite well, and 3, I would say, is my 3 would be that I'm not a tournament player. And I think that has an advantage by itself because I don't necessarily think like a tournament player would. So I might take some unusual units, I might play slightly different to how maybe they would play. I think potentially I could catch those tournament players off guard slightly by doing weird and wacky things, not necessarily the best things or the normal things, but maybe the high risk things. But I think that has an element of surprise and potentially could not trick them, but the unexpected basically. So I think maybe those are the things which make me a strong player, possibly. Okay, great question, Richard, thank you for that. Next is from Kyle G, and he says, why did you pick 13th Company for your Space Wolves? That is a very good question. So when I first started playing, I was playing Necrons, and I was playing against Emperor's Children. And the Emperor's Children back then, this is 3rd edition, were very powerful in assault. Assault was king back then, and my Necrons suffered quite a bit. If I didn't shoot those Marines down by the time they got into close combat, I was just dead meat. Especially with my initiative and initiative 2 back then, you never fought first, and even if you did, it didn't make much difference because you had 1 attack. So when it came to choosing a second army, I think I was about 2 years in playing Necron, so I decided to go for a second army. I decided I wanted a piece of that action. I wanted some assault, and the Eye of Terror Codex came out, and in there were the 13th Company Space Wolves. My buddy who had the Emperor's Children, he was a bit of a Chaos fan. He did the Lost and Damned army that was in that codex, and I did the Space Wolves because basically he recommended them to me. He said, look, these are really good at close combat, and they were like an elite version of Space Wolves. They're quite expensive model count, model wise, and you got less models on the table, but they were really good in close combat. What really attracted me to that army though wasn't the actual Space Marines, but was the Fenrisian Wolves. I really liked the look of those amongst the Space Marines. Probably the Xenos player in me coming out. But yeah, that's why I chose 13th Company Space Wolves. And that was a pain in the bum because I had to have the Eye of Terror Codex, the Space Wolves Codex, the Space Marine Codex, and the main rulebook to play that army. Yeah, and then GW made the army defunct when they brought the Space Wolves Codex out a few years later. Anyway, another story. Right, next question is from Underdog Painting. And he says, do you have any rituals you have to do on a day-to-day basis? Like drink coffee out of a certain cup, or any other that you think people might find weird? So I had a good long think about this one, and the answer is no. I have the normal stuff that everyone naturally does, like I have to clean my teeth in the morning, but I don't have any really special things that has to be done in a certain way, not that I know of anyway. So I think the answer is no to that one. Yes. Next question is from Shadow Cat, and she says, when do you want to get together for a game of Attack Wing? Well, anytime you like, Dee, actually. Shadow Cat lives quite close to me, but yeah, anytime really, just message me and we can arrange it. Bear in mind that I only played the 1st edition of Attack Wing, so I haven't got any of the rules for the new stuff, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Maybe I could get my other buddies as well. We could have like a little group game. It'd be pretty cool. Okay, next question is from William Cubby, and he says, you like to use green stuff, so would you like to do your own Catan mini? I do like to use green stuff, and I've almost done my own Catan mini already. It's not totally scratch built from green stuff, but I would say there's about 50% of green stuff on it. I'll put a picture up of it now, just in case you haven't seen that image already. So yeah, that's majority of green stuff on that model, based around a Nightbringer. I'd probably rather do a conversion of an existing model, doing some green stuff work on it, more than actually scratch building the model itself. So yeah, great question, thank you for that. Right, the next one is from Steve Collects, and he says, if you had the chance to design a new model, what would it be, and why would you want that one for your army? Great question, Steve, thank you. I'm not necessarily that imaginative. I think I've got good skills in terms of actually doing stuff, and I think I've got a good attention to detail, but imagination wise I don't think I've got the greatest imagination. I don't know how good I would be at actually designing a model. If I was to design one, I think I'd love to have a go at a big Star God Catan, the very model that I was talking about earlier. Trying to design something there. I think if I was going to do something, I think I would base it on a female Star Guard. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, thanks for the question, Steve. Right, the next one is from Wayne Catlin. And this is the question I read yesterday. It took me a lot of attempts. Let's see how I get on today. How is Necron Girl's progress going, and will she be appearing in any more videos? My 2-year-old daughter is obsessed with your unboxing of First Strike. She keeps declaring, I want to watch Necron Girl, laugh out loud. And have you got any tips on the best way for my son and I to learn how to play the game? He's just turned 6 and he's starting to show some real interest now. I've been trying to get him into the hobby since he was born. It's been a long wait and I finally have a partner to learn with. Keep up the good work and we all love you. Thank you very much, Wayne, for that question, double question there. So first of all, the Necron Girl one. This was of course done before my previous Necron Girl video went up, so I hope you did enjoy that update. Now Necron Girl is on holiday at the moment. She's gone to Indonesia with her mum for 3 weeks. So I've got the house to myself for 3 weeks. It's rather empty and I am missing her. However, of course, that means we haven't been painting. When she gets back, it's straight back to school. We will attempt to do some painting if we get a chance, but it's just a slow process, but we're having fun and it's going to happen, so keep an eye out for more updates. Now regarding playing your son, he's 6. I started my son at the age of 7, and I remember one thing that I did which I think worked quite well is I did the rule of 4. So basically, regardless of what your dice roll is, whether it's to hit or to wound or it's an armour save, on a 4+ it's successful. So 1, 2, 3 it doesn't work, and a 4, 5, 6 it does. It means you don't have to worry about explaining why that you're rolling particular numbers. Every single dice roll, your son's going to need a 4, you'll need a 4 of course, and it just makes the game a bit easier to play really. You don't have to concentrate on the rules, you just have to concentrate on rolling dice and having fun. I would explain to him before you play the game that you're playing like a more basic version of the game, and as he plays more games, you know, he'll teach him the rules a bit more in depth, but it worked quite well for me. So yeah, the rule of 4s. Okay, so I thought I was going to edit that, but I'm not. I forgot. Right, next question is from Jim White, and he says, have you taken time recently to stare at the night sky to see astronomical bodies? Do you want to paint any troll models for objective markers? No interested in painting troll models, objective markers or otherwise, so don't think that's going to happen. I do very often look up at the stars, based on something that my dad did quite a number of years ago when I was young. He used to have a favourite star constellation. It was in a diamond shape, and when I was young I remember him saying to me, Nick, he said, in the future, well he didn't say Nick, he used to call me son, he said, son, in the future when you look up at that diamond shape, just you can think of me. Now I don't think he knew, but I have now found out that that diamond shape is actually part of Orion's belt. So yeah, I do very often look up and see Orion and think of my dad. So yeah, I do look up. You mentioned astronomical bodies. I don't look up for bodies, but I do look up for the stars. Okay, next question is from Lord 17C. He says, have you ever thought about playing Death Guard? I certainly did. I've thought long and hard about which Chaos Army to play. Death Guard was in the running. However, I'm glad I didn't go for it because everyone plays Death Guard. Now of course, I am now doing a Death Guard army in the First Strike box set, but I don't have any plans to really expand above and beyond that box set, or if I do, it's only going to be to a very small amount, maybe 1,000 points, 1,500, 2,000, but certainly not a massive big 10,000 point army. Maybe a bit like my Dark Eldar, where I have a fixed 2,000 points and that's it. But yeah, that's the Death Guard. Next is from Wargamer Nick, and he says, if you had the choice, would you rather always hit in 40k but fail every save, or have world peace but no one can play war games? I think there is only one choice there. I mean, world peace has got to be done, hasn't it? Surely. But we won't be able to play war games. That's okay, because it doesn't say we can't paint our miniatures, and I get a lot of enjoyment from painting, so I think I could survive with not actually playing the game. So yeah, world peace for everyone. Right, next question is from DMC Draws, and he says, have you ever gone back and played any of the older edition rules, or have you wanted to or considered it? Great question. I certainly have gone back and played the rules. Actually, we do that. I haven't done it in 8th edition, but certainly in 7th and previously, we've gone back to quite a number of missions. One of our favourite is Battle at the Camp, which is a 3-way game. That's an awesome mission. We also like playing the Rescue mission. Lots of the missions that we go back to are from 4th edition. I think they probably had the best, most fun missions that we've ever had. So yeah, I do go back, and I do have a lot of fun playing the old missions and trying to adapt them to the current rules as well. So next question is from 36, and he says, when playing with your Necrons, are there any models that you always include in your army no matter what? I almost always have Harlequin no matter what I'm playing, because he's basically a discount Nightbringer. Okay, he's got a few more questions, so let's answer that one. When playing your Necrons, I know I've just read it, but I can't remember it. Oh yes, which ones do I... Yes, do I include any particular units? I don't actually. I've got some favourite units, but they don't have to be in my list. I'm quite happy to play an army without those units in. In actual fact, I think it's a good idea to play armies without your favourite units in, so you don't get too sort of narrow-minded in the army, and you can learn other things about the army. So, no, is the answer. I'm sure that sounds horrible on the mic, but there you go. Next question is, what model, Necrons or otherwise, do you find most annoying to construct or paint? I'm going to say the Triarch Stalker, mainly because I'm not a fan of that model. I don't think it suits the Necron army. I think it needs to be flying, it needs to be on a flying base, it needs to be hovering, not flying. It needs to be hovering. Most of the Necron vehicles are pretty much hover vehicles, and I just think that that thing should be hovering as well. And I really didn't like the top piece with the driver in as well. I think the whole design is just a bit off, really. And I did convert mine into a hovering model, which I'll link you up to a video there if you haven't seen that video. But yeah, I'd say the Triarch Stalker. I did sub-assembly the painting, but even then it was really difficult just to glue that man into the seat at the top, even after painting it separately. His next question is, what are your views on using proxy models, i.e. non-Games Workshop models, in place of Games Workshop models, or homemade models, cardboard or 3D printed, whichever? I absolutely don't mind anyone using proxies, stand-ins or whatever, as long as it's explained to me before the game. I do admit that it sometimes can be a bit confusing. So I think when Richard was here playing his Eldar the other day, he had a model on basically a Viper, like a character on a Viper. And the last time he played, that was an Autarch. However, this time he played, I think it was a Warlock. And I did get confused, and in my mind I thought, even though he told me what it was at the beginning of the game, in my mind I just sort of remembered it being an Autarch, so I did get a bit confused. That can happen when you're using proxies, so a little gentle reminder probably from your opponent, just what's what during the game is probably quite useful. but I certainly have nothing against it, and I use third-party stuff on my Noise Marines, for example, so yeah, absolutely no trouble with it at all. Except you do need to be aware that if you are using proxies or third parties or anything that's not a Games Workshop model, you won't be able to go to a Games Workshop event with it. So that includes armies on parade, etc. So just be mindful of that. Okay, so the next question is from Pete from Mini Warzone, and he says, is there a movie that you've seen that has really disappointed you and you felt could have been so much better? If so, could you tell us a bit about it? Yeah, I can. I'm in a funny situation at the moment, actually. I am finding myself getting just not so thrilled with movies these days. I don't know why. I'm not one of these sort of has to be all action hype type people. You know, I actually quite like some of the older movies where they're a bit more slow paced and it's all about the story. Hey, I'm a Star Trek fan, you know, it's all about the story. But yeah, a lot of the newer movies, I don't know, maybe I just, like you say, expect more than I actually get. I think yesterday, I'm going to answer a different answer to yesterday. Yesterday I said Guardians of the Galaxy 2 was a bit of a disappointment. I really enjoyed the first one, and the second one wasn't as good basically, but I've just thought of another one. That last Spider-Man film, I was very disappointed in that. I did enjoy it, but for me it just wasn't Spider-Man. It's too comical, too Deadpool-ish. Not what I want to see from Spider-Man. So that I didn't really enjoy that. No, I did enjoy it. I mean, it didn't really live up to my expectations. So thanks, Pete, for the question. Right, next question is from Darth Everian, and he says, can a viewer elect to donate a box that has... This is an easy question. Come on, Nick. Can a viewer elect to donate a box, and has that happened to you? Absolutely, a viewer is more than welcome to donate boxes to me, and it happens quite a lot because you guys are very awesome indeed. I've just received, I'm not going to show you now because it will be in a separate video, but most awesome gift today, and I've got another one here actually to unbox as well, and this one isn't going to get an unboxing, so I'm going to just do the shout now. So Ian from Imperium Gaming put his hand up and said, I've got some. I basically post on the Wargamers Unification Facebook page that I was after some whip coils for my Wraiths. This was before my tournament list because I'm going to have a couple of Wraith whip coils. And he put his hand up and said, yeah, I've got a bag full. So Ian, thank you, mate. I'll put a link up to your YouTube channel in the description below. Check it out. So yeah, absolutely. And if you do want to send something to me, just, yeah, probably the best thing to do is join the Unification, Wargamers Unification Facebook group, and you can just message me on there. Yeah. Okay, this has gone a lot quicker than yesterday, knowing that I don't have to edit. So yeah, last question, and it's from Toy Quest, and he says, what does IDICBeer stand for? A great question. I have answered this previously on my, which video was it? Oh yes, my 1000th video special. So the story is, when I started my YouTube channel, I was playing Eldar, and my craft world was called the IDIC craft world, and I based the IDIC craft world on the Star Trek race Vulcans. You all know, pointed ears, live long, prosper. Yeah, pointed ears, and they live a long time, quite similar to Vulcans, but also their philosophy is infinite diversity in infinite combinations, the IDIC. And this logo, actually, the Vulcan symbol for IDIC. This is the IDIC symbol, and then of course I attached the name Beer, which actually is my surname. So my name's Nick Beer. No, I don't nick beer, but my name is Nick Beer. So IDICBeer was born, and later on I added the 40k to the name just to bring sort of 40k into the channel a bit more, just to sort of unify it. And of course, Wargames unification. The unification was part and parcel of some Star Trek episodes as well. So definitely have that Star Trek theme running through the channel. Big Star Trek fan I am. Okay, so that is all of the questions. Like I said, if you've got a question for me, please put it in the comments box below. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Hit my icon at the end of the video so you can keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k. Beam me up. And I think I probably wouldn't want to scratch build a Sakatan. I probably wouldn't want. I can't say the word probably for some reason. Now you know why I like to edit my videos. I probably would rather. That should be a massive edit there. I probably would rather convert a model, change a model from something which is, oh, that's just rubbish. I am going to edit this bit out.